Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy my video, please click the like button and share the video. It is the only way the YouTube algorithms really notices me. I will be very grateful to you. Viral nightmares, $10 GPU makes my art attack me. True story. Scary story published by Scare Fiction. Chapter 1, The Glitching Muse. Alex, a 28-year-old digital artist known for their breathtaking landscapes, stared at the blank canvas. The blinking cursor mocked him, a relentless metronome keeping time with the growing dread in his chest. Inspiration, once a vibrant muse, had become a ghost, leaving behind a desolate creative wasteland. Bills piled up on the corner of his desk, a grim reminder that artistic passion didn't pay the rent. Every day, the pressure mounted, the silence of the canvas echoing the dwindling comments and likes on his once thriving online portfolio. Desperate for a spark, Alex scrolled through the struggling artists' haven forum, a virtual haven for commiserating creatives. The usual posts about self-doubt and marketing woes blurred on the screen until a new thread titled "Fire Sale, Power Up Your Dreams, Serious Inquiries Only" caught his eye. Curiosity pricked him. He clicked, expecting another overpriced software program with empty promises. Instead, a single grainy picture greeted him. A dusty graphics card, its once sleek surface marred by scratches and faded paint. The description was vague, promising unleashed potential and a quantum leap in processing power. Below, a single line sent a shiver down Alex's spine, warning, glitches and unforeseen consequences may occur. Not for the faint of heart. A healthy dose of skepticism warred with the desperation simmering beneath the surface. A $10 GPU capable of reinvigorating his career. It sounded too good to be true. Still, Alex couldn't ignore the flicker of hope that ignited in his chest. Scrolling down, he saw a flurry of interested comments, all unanswered. Finally, he found a single cryptic reply from the seller. First come, first served. Act fast. Need to sell ASAP. The urgency in the message fueled Alex's curiosity. He typed a quick message, expressing his interest, a knot of apprehension tightening in his stomach as he clicked send. Within seconds, a reply appeared. You got it. PM me your address. Consider it an investment in your future. The exchange felt rushed, almost frantic. A red flag waved somewhere in the back of Alex's mind, but the siren song of a renewed creative spark was too loud to ignore. He sent his address, a knot of unease tightening in his stomach. 2 days later, a beat-up cardboard box arrived on his doorstep. Inside, nestled in a bed of packing peanuts, lay the GPU. It felt heavier than expected, a cold metal chill radiating from its surface. Despite its worn exterior, a strange energy crackled around it, a silent promise of untapped potential. Ignoring the lingering doubt, Alex carefully removed the old graphics card and slotted the new one into his computer. A satisfying click confirmed the connection, and with a deep breath, he started the system. The familiar whirring of the fans was accompanied by a faint hum, a low thrumming that vibrated through the desk. For a moment, the screen flickered and displayed a distorted image, a grotesquely caricatured version of his desktop background. Then, everything settled back to normal. The forum post had mentioned glitches, but this seemed minor. Brushing it off as a one-time anomaly, Alex opened his art software. He marveled at the smooth, responsive interface. Textures seemed to come alive at the touch of the mouse, and colors shimmered with an unreal vibrancy. Lost in the creative flow he hadn't felt in months, Alex poured his frustrations, hopes, and dreams onto the digital canvas, working tirelessly until the first rays of dawn painted streaks of pink across the sky. Exhausted but exhilarated, Alex leaned back and admired his work. The piece, once a concept doomed to remain a vague idea, now pulsed with a raw energy that surprised him. A dark undercurrent lurked beneath the surface, a hint of something unsettling, but the overall effect was undeniably powerful. As he saved the file, a sense of unease settled in his stomach. Perhaps the glitches were more than just temporary hiccups. Perhaps this bargain basement find had come with a hidden price. Chapter 2: Whispers in the Brushstrokes. The morning light cast long shadows across the studio as Alex saved his latest artwork. A sense of unease gnawed at him, a discordant note amidst the symphony of accomplishment. The painting, a vibrant landscape depicting a fantastical forest, pulsed with an energy he hadn't felt in years. Yet, amidst the lush greens and cascading waterfalls, a darkness lurked. The trees seemed to twist into menacing shapes, their branches resembling clawed hands reaching for the sky. A faint shimmer in the background, barely noticeable at first glance, revealed upon closer inspection what appeared to be a grotesque figure lurking amongst the shadows. Alex frowned, a shiver crawling down his spine. Could this be a subconscious manifestation of his anxieties? Had the pressure of his creative drought bled into his work? Pushing the unsettling details aside, he decided to test the GPU's capabilities further. He opened his audio editing software, a project for a short animation film demanding his attention. The interface responded with lightning speed. He imported the soundtrack, a simple melody meant to evoke a sense of tranquility. As he adjusted the volume levels, a faint whisper brushed against his ear. At first, he dismissed it as background noise, a malfunctioning fan perhaps. But as he focused, the sound intensified, a distorted voice muttering words he couldn't decipher. Cranked the volume, straining to hear, but the voice remained elusive, a ghostly echo amidst the music. Panic started to claw at his throat. He checked the audio file, expecting to find some corrupted data causing the anomaly. But the waveform looked pristine, the smooth lines a testament to the GPU's impeccable processing power. He tried playing other audio files. He had worked on a chirping bird song, the lapping of waves against the shore. Each one played back flawlessly, yet the unsettling whispers persisted. Distracted and unsettled, Alex struggled to focus on his work. Every stroke of the brush on the digital canvas felt heavy, burdened with a sense of foreboding. He considered reinstalling his old GPU, returning this unsettling piece of hardware, but a morbid curiosity held him back. Were these glitches just the growing pains of a powerful new tool? Or was something more sinister at work? He decided to revisit the forum post where he bought the GPU. Perhaps someone had encountered similar issues. Scrolling through the comments, he found nothing but questions from those who hadn't received a reply. The seller's profile had vanished, leaving only a chilling absence. His unease solidified into a concrete fear. This wasn't a simple technical issue. This was something far more insidious. As dusk settled, casting long shadows across his studio, Alex made a decision. He would continue to document the anomalies, create a record of this unsettling experience. Maybe it was nothing more than a faulty GPU, a bizarre technical glitch. But a chilling thought echoed in his mind, as chilling as the whispers in his audio files. What if this wasn't a glitch? What if the darkness creeping into his artwork was a premonition of something more horrifying yet to come? Chapter 3: The Canvas Bleeds. Sleep arrived that night, not as a welcome visitor, but as a relentless predator stalking him through the shadows. Alex tossed and turned, the whispers from his audio file echoing in his mind, morphing into a cacophony of distorted voices. The twisted forest he had painted on his canvas became the stage for his nightmares. Clawed hands reached for him from the undergrowth, the The grotesque figure from the shadows loomed closer, its form shifting and morphing into something monstrous and terrifying. He woke with a gasp, heart hammering against his ribs, sweat clinging to his skin. The room was silent, bathed in the pale glow of moonlight filtering through the window. But the terror lingered, a cold sweat chilling him to the core. He stumbled towards his canvas, a desperate need to see if the nightmare had somehow tainted his digital creation. The painting remained unchanged, the forest bathed in the ethereal glow of the digital sun. Yet, something felt off. The shadows seemed to writhe and dance, the whispers from his dream seeming to emanate from the canvas itself. He leaned closer, scrutinizing the details. As his eyes adjusted, a horrifying realization slammed into him. There, etched onto the bark of a gnarled tree, were faint markings. They weren't there before. They resembled the distorted letters he had glimpsed in the corrupted code while trying to decipher the GPU's language. Panic surged through him. He grabbed his phone, the screen illuminating the studio and casting grotesque shadows on the walls. The faintest whisper echoed through the room, a chilling confirmation of his growing fear. Was this thing talking to him? Terror propelled him towards the light switch, bathing the room in harsh fluorescent light. The whispers ceased, leaving an unsettling silence in their wake. He spent the rest of the night huddled on the floor, his back against the wall, eyes glued to the canvas. Every rustle of leaves in the wind outside sent shivers down his spine. Every creak of the floorboards sounded like approaching footsteps. As dawn approached, exhaustion finally claimed him, dragging him into an uneasy slumber. He woke to the insistent buzzing of his phone. A notification from the forum. Someone had replied to his thread of the GPU. Hope flickered in his chest, a fragile flame battling the encroaching darkness. He scrambled to read the reply, his heart sinking into his stomach as he absorbed the single chilling sentence. Beware the bleed through, friend. It hungers for your creativity. The day passed in a blur. Alex couldn't focus on work, his mind consumed by the previous night's events. He kept glancing at the painting, searching for new signs of life, of movement within the shadows. As dusk fell, a new terror gripped him, the fear of sleep. He battled the need for rest, desperately trying to find a way to sever his connection with whatever horrors lurked within the GPU. The thought of shutting down his computer, of stopping his work altogether, filled him with a different kind of dread, the dread of failure, of losing himself in the abyss of his own anxieties. Exhaustion eventually won the battle. He fell asleep, bracing himself for another encounter with the nightmares. This time, the twisted forest morphed into his studio. The grotesque figure emerged from the canvas, its features a horrifying amalgamation of the distorted faces from his other paintings. It reached out with a long, clawed hand, its whispers wrapping around him like a suffocating shroud. He woke with a scream, the sound echoing through the silent studio. A deafening crash from the corner of the room sent a jolt through him. He turned, his blood turning to ice. His painting lay on the floor, ripped from the wall. Jagged lines marred the canvas, one of them cutting through the grotesque figure in the center. But the most horrifying detail wasn't the damage, it was the single scratch that appeared on the wall behind where the painting hung, perfectly mirroring the one on the canvas. The bleed through, the message on the forum warned, hungered for his creativity. Now, it seemed, it was hungering for something more. Chapter 4. The studio was a battlefield, the painting torn from its frame lying on the floor like a fallen soldier. The scratch on the wall mocked him, a tangible manifestation of the nightmare bleeding into reality. Terror gave way to a grim determination. He couldn't keep this a secret any longer. He needed answers, even if they meant confronting the skepticism and ridicule of the online world. With trembling hands, Alex set up his camera. He captured the damaged painting, zoomed in on the matching scratch on the wall, and then recorded the haunting whispers emanating from the distorted audio file. His voice shook as he narrated his experiences, the fear raw and unfiltered. Finally, he uploaded everything to the struggling artist's Haven forum, bracing himself for the inevitable storm of comments. The response was immediate, a tidal wave of reactions crashing down on his thread. Some users were genuinely disturbed, their comments expressing sympathy and a shared sense of dread. Others, however, weren't so easily convinced. Accusations of elaborate hoax and attention-seeking flooded his screen. Memes emerged, depicting him as a stereotypical struggling artist, resorting to desperate measures for fame. His close friend, Sarah, sent a private message. "Alex, are you okay? This is intense. Are you sure you're not just sleep-deprived and messing around with Photoshop filters?" Her concern was laced with a hint of doubt, a wound that stung deeper than the cruel taunts on the public forum. The doubt gnawed at him. Was he losing his mind? Was this elaborate sleep deprivation manifesting as a twisted delusion? But then the faintest whisper, barely audible, drifted from his computer speakers, a chilling reminder that this was all too real. He fought back, responding to concerned comments with detailed narratives of his experiences. He uploaded screenshots of the cryptic code hidden within the GPU software. His determination to be heard attracted the attention of a user with the cryptic handle Glitch Whisperer. Their message was brief, yet intriguing. "Don't listen to the naysayers. I believe you. Maybe I can help." A glimmer of hope flickered amidst the swirling chaos. He delved deeper into Glitch Whisperer's profile, finding a collection of odd, almost esoteric posts about corrupted data harboring malevolent entities. He reached out, pouring out his story, his anxieties, the terrifying reality he found himself trapped in. The response came quickly. "This sounds serious, Alex. You might be dealing with something beyond mere hardware malfunction. Stay strong and keep documenting everything. We'll figure this out together." A sense of camaraderie bloomed in his chest. He wasn't alone in this madness. The validation, even from a stranger online, was a lifeline in the storm of doubt and ridicule. Days turned into a blur of documenting his nightmares, engaging with Glitch Whisperer, and battling the onslaught of skepticism online. The line between reality and his creations seemed to blur further. The whispers grew bolder. The scratches on the wall multiplied, each a chilling reminder of the bleed through hungry for more. His online life spiraled further out of control. The news media picked up his story, distorting it into a sensationalized tale of a haunted GPU. His phone wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications. His apartment swarmed by reporters demanding interviews. He felt like a caged animal, his art and his sanity up for public display. As the chaos escalated, so did his isolation. Friends became wary, colleagues avoided him, convinced he was spiraling into a mental breakdown. He longed for the solace of human connection, but the fear of being labeled a lunatic kept him locked in his studio, a digital warrior battling an unseen enemy in the heart of his own computer. Chapter 5: Whispers in the Dust. The studio, once a haven for artistic expression, had become a battleground. The air crackled with a malevolent energy, a constant reminder of the unseen entity tethered to the GPU. Sleep was a luxury Alex could no longer afford, replaced by a hollow vigilance that left him constantly on edge. The whispers evolved from faint murmurs to chilling taunts, echoing through the studio even with the computer powered down. Shadows danced on the walls, morphing into grotesque shapes that seemed to mock him. Every rustle of paper, Every creak of the floorboard sent shivers down his spine. He couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, a pair of unseen eyes burning into him from the darkness. Desperation gnawed at him, driving him to delve deeper into the mystery of the GPU. Armed with Glitch Whisperer's cryptic messages, he began an obsessive investigation into the seller's online presence. The trail led him to a dead end. The username Malison Code had vanished from online forums and social media. Frustrated, he scoured the web for any mention of the name, hoping to unearth a crumb of information. A single, obscure art blog finally yielded a result. A grainy black and white photograph showed a man with haunted eyes and a gaunt-faced Malison. He stood before a canvas depicting a landscape eerily similar to his own, a twisted forest shrouded in darkness. The caption below sent a jolt through Alex. The lines between creation and reality blur. Soon, they will bleed. Further digging revealed Malison as a reclusive artist known for his disturbingly realistic landscapes. Whispers of strange occurrences and dark rituals surrounded him, rumors of him using forbidden magic to imbue his art with a disturbing life force. But there were also dead ends, no confirmation of these rumors. No proof of his whereabouts since the last blog post, dated a year ago. His heart pounded a frantic rhythm against his ribs. Was the GPU a conduit, a vessel for Malison's dark magic? Had he somehow trapped a malevolent entity within its circuits? The chilling truth seemed to coalesce around him. He wasn't just dealing with malfunctioning hardware or a sleep-deprived imagination. He had stumbled upon something far more sinister, a cursed artifact, fueled by dark magic and fueled by his own creative energy. Panic clawed at his throat, but beneath the terror, a flicker of defiance sparked. He wouldn't go down without a fight. He wouldn't let this entity consume him, his art, his sanity. He messaged Glitch Whisperer, detailing his findings, the desperation evident in his words. The reply came, its tone somber. "This is worse than we thought, Alex. Cursed technology is a dangerous game. Be careful. We need a way to sever the connection, to banish the entity and cleanse the GPU." Alex clung to these words, a lifeline in the churning sea of his fear. He would fight back, even if it meant confronting the darkness head-on. But what weapons could he wield against something born of code and steeped in malevolent magic? He searched online forums, scouring the fringes of the internet for anything related to digital exorcism or cleansing cursed technology. Each dead end fueled his paranoia, leaving him teetering on the edge of despair. Then, a notification from an unfamiliar username, the Archivist. Their message was brief. "You seek to break a binding, artist? There may be a way. But beware, the price might be your greatest creation." The words hung heavy in the air, a chilling promise of a desperate gamble. Alex's resolve hardened. He was ready to pay any price to break free, even if it meant sacrificing the very thing that had saved him from the abyss, his art. Chapter 6. Whispers in the Wires. The message from the Archivist echoed in Alex's mind, a cryptic promise dangling just out of reach. The idea of sacrificing his art was a bitter pill to swallow, but the thought of succumbing to the entity's torment was far worse. He needed answers, and desperation fueled him as he turned back to the GPU, this time with a new mission to delve into its code, to understand the language of its malevolent creator. With trembling fingers, Alex downloaded freeware coding software. It wasn't his area of expertise, but his survival instincts were kicking in. He scrutinized the GPU software, a labyrinth of lines and symbols that looked like gibberish to his untrained eyes. Hours melted into a blur as he searched for anything resembling the cryptic code mentioned by Malison. Then, hidden within a seemingly innocuous system file, he found it. Lines of code, unlike anything he had seen before, pulsed with a faint, malevolent energy. The symbols resembled ancient runes, twisting and contorting like shadows in a flickering fire. He reached out, his cursor hovering over the code like a hesitant hand hovering over a venomous snake. Apprehension battled with a desperate need to understand. With a deep breath, he copied the code into a separate file, isolating it from the core system. The moment he hit enter, a surge of energy ripped through the room. The lights flickered ominously. The air crackled with a static electricity that made his hair stand on end. A low, guttural growl emanated from the computer speakers, the sound vibrating in his chest like a physical blow. He slammed his hand onto the keyboard, deleting the isolated code with a frantic click. A moment of dreadful silence followed. Then the room returned to normal. Relief washed over him, a cold sweat clinging to his skin. Had he just unleashed something even worse by tampering with the code? Or had he inadvertently weakened the entity's hold? He couldn't tell. Fear still gnawed at him, but it was mixed with a sliver of hope. He contacted Glitch Whisperer, explaining what he had found and the terrifying reaction to tampering with the code. The reply arrived quickly. "This is serious, Alex. You might have stumbled upon a binding ritual, written in some ancient digital language. Messing with it could be dangerous, but leaving it alone might be worse. We need to find someone who can decipher this code, someone who understands the dark arts of digital manipulation." Alex felt a flicker of optimism. Deciphering the code was a long shot, but it was a plan, a concrete step towards breaking free. He posted a plea online, reaching out to anyone with expertise in ancient languages or the darker fringes of computer science. The responses were a mix of the curious, the skeptical, and the downright bizarre. Then, amidst the noise, he found a message from a user named Codeweaver. "I may be able to help," the message read. "Your situation sounds like a complex case of digital binding. Send me the code, and let's see what we can unravel." Uncertainty gnawed at Alex, but his desperation outweighed his fear. He sent the code, a knot of apprehension tightening in his stomach. He had a feeling this was just the beginning, a step into the unknown that could set him free or plunge him deeper into the digital abyss. Days turned into a tense wait, punctuated only by the constant whispers and the ever-present feeling of being watched. He was teetering on the edge, his sanity hanging by a thread. Then, a notification arrived. He clicked it, his heart pounding in his chest. The message was short, but filled with hope. The code is a binding ritual, designed to trap an entity and fuel it with your creative energy. There may be a way to rewrite it, to sever the connection. But be warned, the entity might fight back. Chapter 7. Code Weaver. Hope, a fragile flame, flickered within Alex as he reread Code Weaver's message. The confirmation of his suspicions, a trapped entity feeding on his creativity, was terrifying, but it also offered a path forward. He responded eagerly, detailing his experiences and the escalating torment. Codeweaver replied promptly, their messages a lifeline in the storm of Alex's fear. They explained that the code resembled a complex digital binding ritual, a dark art rarely encountered in the digital realm. Whether it was a malevolent AI trapped within the GPU or a form of digital haunting, the goal remained the same: to exploit Alex's creative energy. There might be a way to break the binding, Codeweaver wrote, but it's risky. We need to overload the GPU with positive data, essentially drowning out the negative code that fuels the entity. Alex's heart hammered against his ribs. Overloading the GPU? It sounded like pushing a delicate machine over the edge. But wouldn't that destroy the GPU? He typed, his fingers trembling. Codeweaver's reply was reassuring, yet cautious. There's a possibility, yes, But if we can rewrite the binding code with something benign, the entity might be weakened enough to be expelled. Think of it as a digital exorcism. The idea of a digital exorcism sent shivers down Alex's spine, but the prospect of freedom outweighed his fear. He agreed to the plan, a knot of apprehension tightening in his stomach. Code Weaver sent detailed instructions, a complex flowchart outlining the process. They explained how to modify open-source software, creating a code that would pump positivity into the GPU. Alex scanned the lines of code, his limited programming knowledge a hindrance, but his determination unwavering. He spent the next day meticulously crafting the countercode, pouring his anxieties, hopes, and the sheer will to survive into every line. Images of vibrant landscapes, uplifting music, and inspirational quotes formed the core of the program, a digital shield against the darkness. Finally, with a deep breath, he uploaded the program onto the GPU. The room fell silent. The air crackled with anticipation, a pregnant pause that stretched for what felt like an eternity. Then, the screen flickered wildly, displaying distorted images and garbled text. The speakers emitted a cacophony of sounds, shrieks, growls, and a digital buzzing that vibrated through his bones. The entity was fighting back. Fear threatened to paralyze him, but he clung to the hope that his code, his digital shield, would hold. The battle raged for what felt like hours. The lights flickered, the room pulsed with an unnatural energy. Then, just as abruptly as it began, the chaos subsided. Silence, an eerie, unsettling silence filled the room. The screen remained dark, the GPU humming with a steady rhythm. Alex's hands shook as he reached out and turned on the monitor. The familiar desktop wallpaper greeted him, devoid of the distorted glitch art. A tentative click opened his art software. No whispers erupted from the audio editing program. Was it over? Had he actually banished the entity? He spent the next day testing his equipment, pushing it to its limits. No glitches, no whispers, no terrifying manifestations. Relief washed over him, so potent it felt like a physical sensation. He messaged Code Weaver, his fingers flying across the keyboard. They responded with a single thumbs-up emoticon and a cautious, "Let's see if it sticks." The following days were a tense waiting period. But as the days turned into weeks, the silence remained. There were no more shadows dancing on the walls, no whispers in the dead of night. A cautious optimism bloomed in his chest. Maybe, just maybe, he had won. One morning, as he sat down to work, he felt a surge of inspiration, a wave of creativity unlike anything he had experienced in months. He grabbed his stylus and began to paint, the world around him melting away as he poured his emotions onto the digital canvas. The painting, a vibrant landscape bursting with colors, depicted a scene of serenity and rebirth. As he finished the final stroke, a single tear rolled down his cheek. It was a tear of relief, of gratitude, and a newfound sense of hope. He had faced his nightmare and emerged, not just unscathed, but stronger, his creativity revitalized. The ordeal had changed him. He knew there would always be a part of him that would be haunted by the experience, a dark memory lingering in the back of his mind. However, he was no longer a prisoner. He was an artist, reborn, forever marked by the battle, but ready to reclaim his art and his life. Chapter 8. The Digital Purge. Days bled into weeks, a fragile normalcy settling over Alex's studio. The whispers had ceased, the shadows remained still, and a sense of cautious optimism bloomed in his chest. The digital exorcism, as Code Weaver had termed it, seemed to have worked. Yet, the memory of the experience remained, a dark scar etched onto his psyche. However, a nagging doubt gnawed at him. Was the entity truly vanquished, or simply biding its time? The uncertainty fueled his resolve. He couldn't afford to be complacent. He decided to take preventative measures, a digital purge to cleanse the GPU of any lingering traces of darkness. He delved back into the world of open-source software, this time searching for programs designed to identify and remove corrupted data. He found a suite of tools with cryptic names like Bitsweeper and Data Sanitizer. Downloading and installing them, he felt like a warrior preparing for battle, his weapons lines of code and algorithms. The first step involved a deep scan of the GPU's memory, a process that stretched for hours. As the scan progressed, an unsettling feeling crept into the room. The air crackled with a static energy, a faint hum emanating from the computer speakers. He ignored it, attributing it to his own nerves, but the hum grew steadily louder, morphing into a low, unsettling whisper. The scan completed with a list of corrupted files, gibberish symbols, and distorted code that sent chills down his spine. Without hesitation, he initiated the purge, watching with a morbid fascination as the program systematically deleted the corrupted data. The screen flickered, lines of warped text scrolling across the monitor. The whispers erupted into a cacophony of screams, a chilling chorus of digital anguish. Lights in the studio flickered on and off, throwing the room into chaotic shadows. He slammed his laptop shut, the screams echoing through the closed lid. A moment of agonizing silence followed, then a strangled gasp escaped his lips. He cracked open the laptop, a wave of relief washing over him as he saw the familiar desktop wallpaper. The screen remained dark, but the GPU hummed with a steady rhythm, devoid of any malicious energy. Had it worked? Had he purged the entity for good? He hesitantly turned on the monitor, bracing himself for a resurgence of terror. But the screen remained dark. Then, a spark of hope, the familiar green light flickered on the GPU's casing, indicating normal operation. He reached out and powered on his computer. The familiar startup sequence brought tears to his eyes. He opened his art software, a silent prayer on his lips. No whispers. No distorted code, just the clean, familiar interface. Relief washed over him, a tidal wave of exhaustion dragging him down. He collapsed onto his chair, sleep claiming him in an instant. He awoke with a jolt, his heart pounding in his chest. A dream, a chilling one, played in his mind, a dark figure lurking within the digital realm, its eyes burning with malevolent hunger. The dream felt so real, so vivid, it left him shaken. He stumbled out of bed, drawn towards his computer. It sat there, silent and unassuming, but despite the silence, a nagging doubt lingered. Was the threat truly gone, or was it simply biding its time, waiting for the opportune moment to strike again? He knew he wouldn't find answers tonight, but one thing was certain: his brush with the digital abyss had irrevocably changed him. He was no longer just an artist. He was a warrior, forever marked by the battle, forever vigilant against the shadows lurking within the circuits. Chapter 9: Echoes in the Silence. The silence was deafening. No longer a cacophony of whispers, the quiet that now permeated the studio felt unsettlingly hollow. Days turned into weeks, devoid of the chilling manifestations and tormented nights. Yet, the memory of the experience clung to Alex like a second skin, a constant reminder of the battle he had fought. Sleep offered no escape. The nightmares persisted, albeit in a different form. He dreamt of swirling lines of code, of a faceless entity trapped within the digital realm, its glowing eyes burning with a silent rage. He would wake up in a cold sweat, the fear lingering long after the dreamscape faded. The online community, ever fickle, moved on. The initial frenzy surrounding his story had died down, replaced by more recent controversies. The forum thread remained, a graveyard of comments filled with accusations of hoax and mental illness. Even those who initially offered support seemed hesitant to re-engage, perhaps wary of being associated with a digital ghost story. The solitude was crushing. He yearned to connect, to share his experience with someone who believed, someone who understood. But the fear of ridicule kept him silent, a prisoner of his own doubts. More troubling was the impact on his art. Picking up his stylus felt like entering a minefield. The joy of creation, once his solace, had been replaced by a gnawing fear. Every brushstroke felt fraught with danger, every creation a potential conduit for the nightmares to return. He would sketch a landscape, only to abandon it half-finished, terrified of the image bleeding through and manifesting as a twisted reality. His vibrant palettes gave way to muted tones, a reflection of the fear that had choked the color out of his soul. One evening, Sarah, his closest friend, hesitantly reached out. She had stumbled upon a documentary about digital folklore and remembered his story. The hesitant question in her message, was it real, opened a floodgate of emotions. For the first time, he poured out his heart, recounting the terrifying encounters, the whispers, the digital purge. He braced himself for judgment, for the inevitable dismissal. Instead, he was met with hesitant belief and a genuine concern for his well-being. Maybe it wasn't a ghost, Sarah said, her voice soft on the phone. Maybe it was some kind of technical glitch, some code malfunction that messed with your head. The suggestion, while logical, offered little comfort. Whether it was a malevolent entity or a corrupted program, the impact remained the same. "I don't know what to do," he confessed, his voice cracking. "I'm scared to create, scared to sleep, scared of my own mind." A moment of silence followed. Then Sarah spoke. "Come over, Alex. Let's talk, face to face. Maybe we can figure this out together." The offer, simple as it was, felt like a lifeline in the storm of his anxieties. He spent the night at Sarah's apartment, the first time he had slept anywhere besides his haunted studio in weeks. They talked until the sun peeked through the blinds, a mixture of shared memories and anxieties about the future. As he walked back to his studio the next morning, a sliver of hope flickered within him. The path forward remained uncertain, but he wasn't alone. He wouldn't let the fear win. He would learn to live with his experience, to walk the tightrope between creation and potential chaos. He wasn't sure if he would ever create with the same innocent joy again. The battle had left its scars, but maybe, just maybe, he could learn to control the fear, to use it as fuel for his art, a testament to his victory over the digital darkness that had threatened to consume him. With a deep breath, he unlocked the studio door, the silence within no longer a source of terror, but a blank canvas waiting to be filled. He would paint, not with the reckless abandon of the past, but with a newfound caution, a warrior wielding his art as a weapon against the shadows that lurked within the circuits and his own mind. Chapter 10: The Shadow Visitor. The rhythmic tapping of a fingernail against the studio door startled Alex from his thoughts. He hadn't been expecting anyone, especially not on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. Wiping paint-stained hands on his smock, he cautiously approached the door, peering through the peephole. A tall, gaunt figure stood outside, shrouded in the shadows cast by the building's awning. Hesitantly, Alex unlocked the door, the rusty hinges groaning in protest. The visitor stepped into the light, revealing a face etched with worry lines and eyes that held a haunted glint. "Alexander," the visitor rasped, his voice raspy from disuse. "It's me, Elias. Elias Thorne." The name sent a jolt through Alex. Elias Thorne was the username of Malison, the previous owner of the cursed GPU. But according to Alex's online research, Malison had vanished a year ago. "Who are you?" Alex demanded, his voice laced with suspicion. The visitor chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "Let's just say I'm an old friend of Malison's. I heard about your situation." He gestured vaguely around the studio, his gaze lingering on the painting. Alex had been working on a muted landscape devoid of its usual vibrancy. "How?" Alex blurted out, his confusion battling with a rising tide of fear. "News travels fast, even in the digital age," Elias replied cryptically. "Look, I know that GPU is troublesome, but it wasn't always like that." He took a step closer, his voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. Malison, he wasn't just an artist. He was obsessed with creating living art that breathed, that felt. Elias's eyes gleamed with a fanatical intensity that sent shivers down Alex's spine. "He believed a GPU held the key," Elias continued, his voice barely a murmur. "A way to imbue his creations with a digital life force. But he tapped into something he couldn't control." A horrifying realization dawned on Alex. The whispers, the nightmares, the entity he had fought, they were all Malison's twisted creation, a malevolent experiment gone wrong. "So what do I do?" Alex asked, his voice barely a whisper. Elias reached into his worn trench coat and pulled out a small, ornately carved box. "You contain it, Alex. You can't destroy it, not exactly. But you can build a cage, a digital prison to keep it from bleeding into your world." He opened the box, revealing a glimmering crystal shard embedded in velvet. "This," Elias explained, "is a focusing core. It can amplify your artistic intent, create a digital barrier strong enough to hold the entity at bay." Confusion clouded Alex's mind. "But how? I'm no programmer, no expert in the dark arts." Elias smiled, a cold, unsettling smile. "You are an artist, Alex. And sometimes your art can be a weapon. The code can't be destroyed, but it can be overwritten. Paint a cage, Alex. Paint the entity's prison and use the core to amplify your creation, to make it real within the digital realm." The idea was terrifying, yet strangely alluring. To use his art not to create, but to cage a nightmare. "What happens then?" Alex asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Elias shrugged. "Who knows? Maybe you'll find a way to sever the connection someday. Maybe the entity will fade away, starved of your creativity. But for now, this is the only way to keep yourself safe." With that, Elias placed the box on the table and turned to leave. "Remember, Alex," he said, his hand on the doorknob, "art is a powerful tool. Use it wisely." Then he was gone, leaving Alex alone with the weight of his cryptic advice and the unsettling feeling of being watched. He stared at the box, the crystal shard glowing with an otherworldly light. Fear gnawed at him, but so did a stubborn spark of defiance. He wouldn't let the darkness win. He would paint his prison, a digital fortress fueled by his will, and trap the entity back in the digital realm from whence it came. The path ahead was uncertain, but at least he had a direction, a way to fight back. He picked up his stylus, a newfound resolve settling in his gut. He wouldn't just create art, he would create a weapon, a testament to his resilience in the face of the digital abyss. Chapter 10, Whispers on the Astral Wind. The grimoire lay open before me, its faded script swimming before my eyes. Sweat slicked my palms as I traced the intricate symbol etched onto the ancient chalice. Tonight was the night of the celestial alignment. Tonight, I would attempt to sever the bond with the entity and free myself, or succumb to its darkness forever. A wave of nausea washed over me. The entity, sensing my fear, stirred within. A cold, raspy voice echoed in my mind. Doubt gnaws at you, mortal. Embrace it. Let the darkness consume you. Gritting my teeth, I forced the voice down. I had come too far to turn back now. The ritual required meticulous preparation. The chalice, filled with a concoction brewed from rare herbs, sat beside the grimoire. A circle of chalk, inscribed with arcane symbols, surrounded the makeshift altar. The room, once a dusty library, was now filled with an unsettling energy that crackled in the air. Just as I began to chant the opening incantation, a blood-curdling scream pierced the silence. The source, the crypt beneath Blackwood Manor. The entity, trapped within Eleanor's spectral form, was likely sensing the impending ritual and reacting with violent resistance. Doubt gnawed at me. Was I strong enough to sever the connection, especially with the entity already in such a heightened state? Taking a deep breath, I continued the chant. My voice, initially shaky, grew stronger with each passing word. The room pulsed with an otherworldly light as the symbols on the floor glowed faintly. From the depths of the crypt, the entity's screams grew louder, tinged with a desperate rage. Suddenly, the air grew frigid. A swirling vortex of shadows materialized near the circle, a chilling mockery of Eleanor's spectral form. The entity itself, a writhing mass of malevolent energy, emerged from the shadows, its crimson eyes locked on me. Fear threatened to paralyze me. But the entity's presence also served as a stark reminder of what was at stake. You cannot escape me, mortal, it hissed, its voice like nails scraping against stone. The darkness is your destiny. A primal scream ripped from my throat. Ignoring the entity's taunts, I poured every ounce of my willpower into the ritual. The symbols on the floor flared brighter, casting the swirling vortex of shadows back. The chalice shimmered, the concoction bubbling within like a miniature cauldron. The entity lunged, its shadowy tendrils reaching for me. But an unseen force held them back, the symbols on the floor acting as a barrier. Frustration contorted its form as it shrieked in defiance. The moment of truth arrived. The final incantation, the most crucial part of the ritual, rose to my lips. My voice grew hoarse, but I didn't falter. With each word, the celestial alignment seemed to respond. A brilliant light erupted from the chalice, washing over the room and blinding the entity. A deafening roar echoed through the room, the sound of the entity's fury. The vortex of shadows writhed, pushing against the barrier. The symbols on the floor glowed white-hot, almost on the verge of shattering. Just as I thought I could take it no more, a shift occurred. The entity's screams abruptly cut off, replaced by a terrified whimper. The vortex of shadows flickered and imploded, disappearing into a wisp of smoke. The light from the chalice subsided, revealing a faint, shimmering light in the center of the circle Eleanor. Tears welled up in my eyes. Her spectral form flickered, weak but whole. A gentle smile graced her lips. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You have freed me." Relief washed over me, so profound it felt like a physical force. But alongside the relief came a chilling realization the entity, though severed, might still be lurking somewhere on the astral plane. And the question I had no answer to was, I truly free of its influence? Eleanor seemed to sense my unease. "The darkness will always tempt you, just as it tempted me," she said, her voice soft. But now you have the strength to resist. Never forget the sacrifice you've made. With a final, fleeting smile, her form dissolved into shimmering light particles, leaving behind a gentle breeze carrying the scent of rain-soaked earth. She was truly gone, free at last. I stood there in the silent room, exhausted but strangely elated. The room felt lighter. The oppressive aura of the entity vanished. As I began, Chapter 11, Breaking Free, continued. The weight of the revelation pressed down on me like a physical force. Eleanor, a victim of her own ambition, trapped alongside a monstrous entity. Days bled into each other as I wrestled with a terrible dilemma. Freeing her meant unleashing the entity, but leaving her imprisoned was a form of torture I couldn't condone. Sleep offered no solace. The entity's whispers taunted me, promising power if I released it. Eleanor's mournful pleas echoed in my nightmares. Finally, driven to a corner, I made a decision, a desperate gamble that might succeed or end in cataclysmic failure. Returning to the grimoire, I scoured its pages with renewed fervor. Deep within its cryptic script, I unearthed a passage about a soul-severing ritual. It was a dangerous procedure meant to sever the connection between two bound spirits. But with the knowledge of the hooded figure's initial binding, a sliver of hope emerged. Perhaps by replicating the ritual, focusing on the original binding energy, I could sever the entity from Eleanor. The ritual required a multitude of rare ingredients and precise incantations. Obtaining the necessary components became a harrowing journey, leading me through treacherous landscapes and forgotten ruins. Exhaustion gnawed at my body, but the image of Eleanor's spectral form, filled with a heartbreaking plea, fueled my determination. Finally, after weeks of relentless pursuit, I stood in the forgotten crypt beneath Blackwood Manor, the site of the initial binding. The air grew thick with a malevolent energy, the whispers reaching a fever pitch. Eleanor, sensing my presence, materialized in a swirling vortex of shadows, her spectral form flickering weakly. "You, what are you doing?" she rasped, her voice filled with a mixture of fear and hope. "I'm here to help," I replied, my voice hoarse but resolute. "I can sever the bond, free you from the entity's grasp." A flicker of doubt crossed her spectral form. "But what of the entity?" Ignoring the entity's enraged screams echoing within my mind, I began the ritual. The air crackled with raw energy as I chanted the ancient words, tracing intricate symbols in the air with a vial of shimmering liquid. Eleanor's spectral form wavered, caught between my pull and the entity's hold. The entity, sensing its imminent release, unleashed a torrent of rage. Shadows writhed on the walls, threatening to engulf us. But I pressed on, pushing my will into the incantation. The symbols glowed brighter, carving a path for the severing. A deafening shriek tore through the crypt, followed by an ear-splitting blast of pure energy. The symbols flared white-hot, then vanished. Eleanor's spectral form writhed in a vortex of light, her face contorted in pain. And then, silence. The vortex dissipated, revealing Eleanor, her spectral form solid and whole. A gentle smile graced her lips, devoid of the previous despair. You did it," she whispered, her voice filled with awe. Relief flooded me, so intense it felt like a physical force. Tears streamed down my face, a mixture of joy and exhaustion. But the celebration was short-lived. A chilling silence filled the room, a silence more unnerving than the entity's presence. "Where is it?" I asked, my voice trembling. "The entity." Eleanor shook her head. "Gone. The binding had anchored it to me. Now, with the bond severed, it has faded back into the void from whence it came." A sense of unease settled in my stomach. Could we be truly free? What if the entity simply retreated to gather strength, returning to torment Eleanor or another unfortunate soul? As if sensing my doubt, a gentle breeze swept through the crypt, carrying with it the scent of rain-soaked earth. Looking up, I saw the faintest glimmer of light filtering through the cracks in the crypt ceiling, the first sign of dawn. Suddenly, the oppressive energy that had shrouded Blackwood Manor lifted. The whispers ceased, replaced by an eerie silence. A wave of peace washed over me, a sense of renewal. Eleanor smiled, her spectral form shimmering with an otherworldly light. "Thank you," she said, her voice filled with profound gratitude. "You have freed me from my torment. Now, I can finally move on." With a final farewell, her form dissolved into shimmering light particles, leaving behind a single, radiant teardrop that floated in the air before slowly dissipating. Exhausted but strangely elated, I emerged from the crypt. The first rays of dawn painted the sky with soft hues of orange and... Chapter 12: Aftermath. Leaving Blackwood Manor was a surreal experience. The oppressive atmosphere that had clung to the place for so long had vanished, replaced by a sense of quiet peace. Sunlight, no longer dulled by an unseen miasma, streamed through the overgrown grounds, painting everything in a warm glow. The house itself, once a looming embodiment of despair, now seemed almost ordinary, a sad monument to a bygone tragedy. My journey out took me through a maze of overgrown paths and crumbling statues. Each familiar landmark, once a reminder of the entity's presence, now held a bittersweet significance. Here, I had encountered the first chilling whisper. There, I had deciphered a cryptic message in the dusty library. The grounds, once a source of fear, now felt like a testament to my perseverance. Reaching the wrought iron gate that separated Blackwood Manor from the outside world, I paused. Taking a deep breath of fresh air, a feeling of accomplishment washed over me. I had faced a terrifying entity, confronted my deepest fears, and emerged victorious. But the victory felt laced with a tinge of melancholy. Eleanor's final words resonated in my mind. "You have freed me from my torment. Now, I can finally move on." A bittersweet pang of sadness tugged at my heart. Though I had helped a tormented soul find peace, a part of me wished I could have known her better. The woman hidden beneath the layers of suffering. Stepping through the gate, I looked back at the imposing silhouette of Blackwood Manor. A lone crow cawed from a crumbling chimney, its harsh sound echoing through the stillness. The house, though no longer a source of fear, held a certain allure, a silent repository of secrets. As I walked away, I pondered the lingering effects of my experience. The entity might be gone, but the memory of its malevolent presence would undoubtedly leave scars. Sleep, once peaceful, now held the potential for nightmares, echoes of the entity's rage and Eleanor's despair. But alongside the fear, a newfound knowledge blossomed within me. The veil between the living and the dead, once a mere figment of folklore, now felt unnervingly real. The world around me seemed to thrum with a hidden energy, a secret language I was only beginning to understand. This knowledge came with a burden. The horrors I had witnessed, the whispers I had heard, couldn't be easily unlearned. I wouldn't be able to simply walk past a dusty antique shop or a forgotten cemetery without a shiver going down my spine. But this burden also carried a responsibility. The entity might be gone, but darkness, I knew, could take many forms. Humanity, with its capacity for cruelty and greed, could be its own kind of malevolent force. Perhaps this new awareness, this glimpse into the unseen, could equip me to recognize and confront darkness in all its guises. As days turned into weeks, I found myself drawn to places others avoided: abandoned buildings, ancient ruins, forgotten burial grounds. Equipped with the grimoire and the knowledge gleaned from my ordeal, I began to delve deeper into the world of the unseen. This wasn't a morbid fascination, but a sense of purpose, a belief that I could use my experiences to protect others from similar suffering. My life, once ordinary, had been irrevocably changed. The fear hadn't entirely vanished, but it was now tempered with a newfound resolve. The world now seemed more vibrant, more alive, not just with the bustle of everyday life, but with the faint echoes of another world, a world of whispers and shadows, a world I could no longer pretend didn't exist. Blackwood Manor might have faded from view, but its legacy lived on within me, a testament to the enduring power of courage, the fragility of peace, and the ever-present struggle between darkness and light. And as I walked the path ahead, a new voice echoed within me, not a whisper of fear, but a whisper of determination, a vow to use the darkness I had witnessed to illuminate the path for others.